Blog Talk Radio.
AJC Radio and our team extend a personal invitation to all the members of Congress to be a part of this dynamic initiative called Spotlight on Capitol Hill. We welcome you, whether you're Republican or Democrat or Independent, whatever you might be. We join together to bring to the attention of the American people the positive things that our elected officials are doing on Capitol Hill. Tonight, AJC Radio salutes you, and we extend that invitation to all the members of Congress as we continue to shine the light called Spotlight on Capitol Hill. It's just going to get better from here. Let's get on board.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to enter, so help you God. Congratulations, you are all now members of the 115th Congress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to raise a couple of issues. First of all, let us be clear about the extent of the human tragedy currently taking place in Puerto Rico. As I understand it, since 2006, Puerto Rico has lost 20% of its jobs. About 60% of Puerto Rico's adult population are either unemployed or have given up looking for work. Over the last 5 years alone, more than 150 public schools have been shut down, and the childhood poverty rate has shot up to 56%. That is a human tragedy, and in my view, Wall Street should not be believing that they can get blood from a stone. When people are suffering and hurting, you cannot continue to squeeze them. And I want to get back to that, but I want to say a word now on the energy situation. I have not heard one word, maybe I missed it, on a phrase called sustainable energy. As I understand it, Puerto Rico today is producing its electricity 55% from oil, 28% from natural gas, 16% from coal, 1% from renewables. Now, unless Puerto Rico's advertising is incorrect, last I heard you were a sunny island. You were an island. There's wind. I do not understand why you are producing electricity from oil and why we are not investing significantly into sustainable energy. I know there are plans underway, but you have huge potential to lead this part of the world. All right.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen of America. This is Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday, and I want to ask you one question. Do you feel the burn was a phrase used in last year's election. Well, I'll tell you right now, tonight's Spotlight on Capitol Hill shines the light on the burn factor. Senator Bernie Sanders, and I'll tell you what, this is going to be a good one from Vermont. Senator Bernie Sanders, folks, you do not want to miss this one. Hang on to your seats, folks. AJC Radio kicks off right now. And there you have it. I'm Lamont Banks, along with Cliff Stewart, Dennis Merritt, William Williams, and the entire AJC Radio team. And tonight we deal with a pioneer, if you will, in Congress, Bernie Sanders. And unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, you have to know who Bernie Sanders is, someone that impacted the election of 2016 in a way that was not to be expected, William. And tell you what, you're talking about sending fire through a nation for change. Bernie Sanders was the example of that.
Absolutely. I mean, he came to light. People loved him. He has a tremendous following. He brought in a lot of issues that dealt with a lot of things. I think one of the things that was most exciting about him was that he was an independent and had a platform that pulled a lot of Democrats and Republicans. He had a lot of followers. And still to this day, very much people were wondering and questioning what if. he'd been the candidate. If it'd been him instead of Hillary Clinton, would things have changed?
Well, absolutely. And Bernie Sanders, what you find with him, Dennis, is that he is honestly, your phrase that you use pretty consistently is a member of Congress for the people. And I'll tell you what, Bernie Sanders, when I tell you doing the research for this show, when I tell you has a heart for those and the most vulnerable in this nation to bring about change, Dennis, this is something that we have to definitely pay attention to. Your thoughts?
And that is true. I mean, Senator Bernie Sanders is truly about the people. If you listen to him, even during the campaign, he was all about, making sure the poor, our seniors, those that are less fortunate, that they're actually, being taken care of. I mean, that was one of his main push. And now you see, as a senator, still looking at the health reform, he's really into it. He's like, no, we're not going to agree to pass anything that's going to, do harm to our seniors and to those that are, the poor and those that, can't afford insurance for themselves. Because I tell you, if as we go through this show and we highlight the different areas of this senator, we're going to find out that this is truly a senator about the people.
Without question. If you're talking about a no-nonsense senator, has been in Congress as a whole. He was in the House, on the House side of Congress from 1991 to 2007, then went to the Senate side from 2007 to the present. So you're talking about he's definitely doing some things. And I'll tell you what, if you just look back some months ago in that election and the campaign last summer and the people and the multitudes of people that believed in the message that Bernie Sanders was delivering, and I'll tell you what, he had some good things to say. He went as far as to speak about total free tuition for all Americans as far as for college students, pushing some issues, Cliff, and some agendas that really resonated with the American people. And it resonated for one reason. These were things that people could relate to. College tuition is out of control in this country. There are other issues. Healthcare, a major issue in this country. He goes as far as some of the nominees for the Trump administration. Secretary of Education, you're going to hear a little bit about that exchange. And I'll tell you what, he's not taking anything lightly. He's going to call people on the carpet for exactly what they are.
That's right. I mean, he's all about social equality. Always has been. He's always had a consistent story that he is about. The statement that he makes that he believes that that in America there shouldn't be anybody living in poverty. That America is a country that has enough wealth, that has enough sustainability, that there should not be anybody living in poverty in America. He has always stated that and stand by it for the entire time that he's been a member of Congress.
And I don't know why people think that is such an impossible statement to be made. No one should be in poverty in one of the strongest nations on earth. And the money that is in this country. Why do we have people homelessness? Why do we have it? Why do we have people struggling, cannot put food on the table? And Bernie Sanders has that just down-to-earth, regular guy type attitude to say, look, I understand what you're dealing with. And I'll tell you what, his message hit home.
I mean, he's
touched a lot of people.
He's talking about everything. I'm talking a living wage. I mean, he's talking about a fair and humane immigration policies. He's talking racial justice, fighting for affordable house. I mean, we can go on and on and on, and tonight we will. But he's just into all those things that truly are meaningful to those people who those people are not the wealthy, 1%. He's talking about the Americans. He's talking about let's come together and we could do this. So I'll tell you, this senator is great.
And he's pushing for the minimum wage, and I like the term people are using now. What is a living wage?
Exactly.
Can I live off this wage? And he made the statement, and you'll hear it in some of the clips that we pulled tonight, that any American that works 40 hours a week in this country and goes to work every day should not have to struggle to put food on the table if he's working. Why don't we have a living wage? Those are questions that have to be answered. We're going to get down and we're going to get into the conversation with Congressman Bernie Sanders, and I think it's something that the bears, again, call all your neighbors, whoever you can, get them out. This is an elected official. He is an independent, but he is connected with the people of this country, and I'll tell you, you saw it firsthand during this election season. Crowds by the multitudes of people chanting the burn, chanting, hey, we want change, to the point he had a powerful enough message that he was able to get some things brought into the Democratic convention and on that platform as far as for the Democratic Party. Right? So there are things that are happening that are very influential by Senator Bernie Sanders, and we're excited to do him tonight. We're honored to have an opportunity to speak about the accomplishments of Senator Sanders. Before that, let's go to the disclaimer. None of us at AJC Radio are lawyers, and we do not provide legal advice. Although we do go to great lengths to make sure our information is accurate and useful, we recommend you consult a lawyer if you seek legal advice. In this time of misinformation, government-controlled media, and government corruption, it is sometimes hard to get to the truth, but we must try. It is not our intention to libel or discriminate against anyone, and the opinions expressed by callers and guests do not necessarily reflect that of a Just Cause or AJC Radio, and we want to thank you for tuning in and choosing to spend a little time with us this evening. We appreciate that. And, folks, feel free to dial into the show tonight if you'd like. If you have comments about Senator Sanders, 646-200-0628. That's 646-200-0628. Feel free to dial in and join in the conversation. We're excited about this show tonight, just about the energy that Senator Sanders brought to America. And you're going to hear some of that, and you're going to feel some of that energy tonight as we get into discussion and get into the man of Senator Bernie Sanders, and we're excited about that. Right now, we're going to go to some current news. We were talking prior to the show about an officer who body slams a sixth grader, and did some damage to her. And on the video that I saw, you're talking about nothing but a baby. And you're slamming this kid into the ground, and I believe there was clavicle. Is that? I believe it was clavicle damage to this young girl. It makes you really sick inside. We're going to go to the clip as we go into current news real quick, let you hear it for yourself, and we're going to discuss it, and then we're going to get on with Spotlight. Let's see what they have to say.
It's 12. Wait,
now at 5. Right now at 5, a mother's anger after seeing her daughter slammed to the ground by a school resource officer.
Her demand for action tonight that doesn't stop at termination, and the school's response to this video. Thank you for joining us. I'm Meredith Land.
And I'm Chris Gutierrez. This video right here has a lot of people talking tonight. It happened Friday at Piedmont Global Academy in Dallas.
Yeah, the officer was breaking up a fight between that girl and another student. The mom says he went too far. NBC5's Maria Guerrero joins us with her take and the schools. Maria?
Well, the sixth grader was not only body slammed, she says she was also pepper sprayed by this officer. Her mother says he should not only be fired, he should also have criminal charges brought against him.
Angry, and I was crying because I didn't know how can it happen.
Alma Valadez is angry and feels helpless seeing her daughter Mariana like this after a fight at school caught on grainy cell phone video. You can see Mariana and another girl fighting. Then a Dallas ISD police officer steps in, pulling them apart.
Then the officer had came and had to grab me and body slam me, then put the pepper spray.
Pepper sprayed, she says, after the officer easily picks up the 100-pound girl and slams her down.
That hurt. That she screamed. And she's like, when he did it like that to her, it just made me so mad.
He pepper sprayed me in the eyes, and I couldn't open my eyes because it was burning me, the eyes. So then they took us to the nurse to put water.
Mariana ended up in the hospital with a clavicle fracture her mother insists was caused by the officer and not the fight.
Everybody said, oh, yeah, she deserves to be bad. No, she's not. She don't deserve it. She's a 12-year-old girl.
Dallas ISD declined an interview at the request of their attorneys, but released a statement saying, in part, the officer's actions do not appear to represent the response we want our officers to display. The unnamed officer has been placed on administrative leave as the investigation at Piedmont Global Academy continues.
I don't want him being suspended. I want him to get fired. You know, why he's still working with kids? He's not capable of working with that like that.
Mariana will be returning to school. A little nervous, she says, tomorrow after serving a 3-day suspension. She also says that other students here captured that incident on camera, but that a school official here told them to delete their videos. Reporting live in Dallas, Maria Guerrero, NBC5.
And Maria, the school district did not say when that officer might be allowed back, only saying they are conducting a thorough investigation.
Well, there you have it. I'm making sure I heard that correctly. The school told the students to delete their videos. Why would they do that? William?
So they could cover it up, so they could act like it was an incident. I mean, that's the bottom line. They just don't want this to get out.
Why would you put that on public record?
Well, they probably didn't anticipate it being on public record, not as much as they wanted that video to be out there. But the thing about it is, we've seen this so much, so often, and really, that's one of the great things about this age of technology is that we're able to capture these incidents of abuse by law enforcement. We're seeing it more and more, and we're going to see it more and more. I mean, it was, hats off to these children. I mean, you could think they're 12 years old to pull out their phones and say, "Look, this is not right." I mean, he slammed the girl to the ground. Now, when you're talking about her clavicle, basically you're talking about up here her collarbone. He basically wrenched her, to the ground, or forcefully took her to the ground and cracked that. I mean, this is a small girl. They said in that it was a 100-pound girl.
Yep.
So this is a grown man, and he may obviously, I guess he's been trained to do, have some kind of restraint or do something along those lines, but. Was that needed in this case? Was it needed that you throw somebody down, that you try to, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you break and fracture somebody's clavicle, you have basically driven them into the cement. Those are injuries you hear that happen every Sunday in the NFL.
Or MMA.
You're slamming these kids, a 100-pound girl that is lightweight, a kid. The school should be ashamed of themselves to say, we don't have a return date yet. There should be no return date, period.
Well, I look at it like this. If that had been seen and it wasn't an officer, say it was a father or just another male figure, he'd be in custody. And that's the way it should be approached. Absolutely. It's a crime. It's a crime, period. It doesn't matter if he's got a badge on or uniform.
That's assault.
That's assault.
If I go to any location, if anybody, any of these guys in our society, they say they step into a bar or wherever, and they get into an altercation, and there is bodily damage or harm done to someone, you are getting arrested if charges are pressed. Why is it so different in this country if you have a badge or some type of law enforcement badge to give you a license to just do what you want?
Well, that's it. I mean, we have taken that approach that you have a badge on. What you say is 100% for real. It's the truth. We're not going to debate you. If you said that this happened and we'll take your word for it and not this person, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And we've seen a history of it here for the past couple of years.
Well, we're going to deal with that further. We're coming back, folks, in a moment. Get ready for the burn. You may ask the question, you shouldn't even wonder what that means. Feel the burn. We're coming back with Senator Bernie Sanders as we shine the spotlight on this senator making a difference in our nation's capital and around the country. We'll be right back. This is AJC Radio Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you a question? Did you know that there are over 2.4 million people behind bars in the United States? I'll ask you one more question. Were you aware that that is the highest number of people behind bars in the entire world? The United States makes up of only 5% of the world's population, but we have over 25% of the world's prison population. America prides itself on being the most advanced and progressive nation on earth. However, sadly, we are also the world's most archaic. I'm going to give you a personal invitation to get involved with the fight against mass incarceration. take a few moments to call 1-855-529-4252. That is a Just Cause. And we fight for justice. Again, call a Just Cause today. Don't delay. Call 1-855-529-4252. It is time, and I say high time, that we take America's incarceration seriously. Won't you join us? Call today.
Of a BART police officer who shot and killed a man.
When I first saw the Oscar Grant footage, like a lot of people here in Oakland, I was outraged.
As soon as I heard about it and I went online and I seen what had happened, tears came down my eyes.
It was something that was very alarming as a police officer and as a citizen of Oakland.
It was like such a blatant murder.
You have a city in trauma. Anyone that's seen that and looks at it is in trauma.
My hope is that people will express their concern with police brutality, but they will do so in constructive ways that don't include violence.
We cannot perpetrate this cycle of harm and violence in this community.
Because we do have to live here and they terrorize the city and it's only going to make it worse for us.
They killed our young black men.
You can protest, you can try to make a change, but there is a positive way you can do it.
And make sure we let the police know and that we're aware that stuff ain't right out here. We're trying to fix it.
In a way that is about using your voice for justice.
And making Oakland a safer place for everyone to live and get along as one.
Violence is not just.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
Violence is not justice.
You must have thrown 1,000 pitches teaching him to hit a home run. Spent countless Saturdays running routes so he could learn to hit an open receiver. Endless afternoons teaching him how to hit the three-pointer. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit? Teaching boys that all violence against women is wrong is one of the most important things a man can do. Learn how to start the conversation at teachearly.org. Brought to you by Futures Without Violence and the Ad Council.
Did you know that over 1.5 million children in America have parents who are incarcerated?
These children cope with the pain
through drugs, alcohol,
anger, and violence.
It is so important.
It is so important for communities to provide preventative and intervention services.
Don't make them do it alone.
Become a part of the community.
Become a part of the community.
And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen of America. You're wondering where your destination has brought you to tonight. It's AJC Radio coming live from Colorado Springs, Colorado. You want to grab a beverage or something that'll make you feel a little bit better as we get ready to take you on a journey, if you will, to our nation's capital. Senator Bernie Sanders is the topic of Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday night, and we've been honored and privileged to be able to highlight such a huge figure, if you will, William, that I'll tell you what, we've talked before as we get into this program tonight, a man of the people without question, and the voice of the people that seems sometimes to have lost their voices in the midst of this really busy time of social status, if you will, where people are recognized for whether it's their economic situation, their social status. But Senator Sanders set out on a journey to bring a country together that was divided.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to, do you care about me?
Right.
The person that, real quickly, I'm sorry. Go ahead. The person that goes to work every day and has to, saddle up those boots and work hard in some of these factories across this country, and some of them living paycheck to paycheck. There comes a time where politically they start to feel, do we even count? Senator Sanders made it clear every individual counts.
Yes, and the thing about him, he had such a powerful message. He dealt with, these topics, these grassroots common topics that were plaguing us throughout the country. But the thing that people, I think, really were attracted to him was the fact that he had no party affiliations that would cloud one versus the other. He said, listen, this is the issue, and I don't have a Republican line to toe. I don't have a Democratic line to toe. I'm not afraid of stepping on party toes to address these issues that are at hand. And so when you listen to him talk, when you listen to his town hall meetings, you saw and the wave of people, more and more, they were like, listen, we don't care about your Democratic loyalties. We don't care about your Republican loyalties. Where's the loyalty to the people of the United States? Where's the loyalty to the people here that are voting for you in office? Where's your loyalty to your constituents? When are you going to do what you've been chosen to do and voted to do? And that's why he attracted, and still to this day, has attracted such a loyal following.
No, absolutely right. And it continues. I tell you what, people are still motivated. A lot of people were heartbroken that had invested everything into Senator Sanders, which is what you do when you run for the presidency of the United States. I thought his message throughout the campaign was clear. You couldn't really argue with his message. His message was about bettering the American people, bettering students to be able to have an opportunity to not get out of college and be just burdened down with debt where they can't even focus on what they've achieved because they're focused on the debt.
Right. And another thing he was very strong and adamant on was continuing the work that had been done the 8 years previous, addressing the fact that, there was a lot of good. There was a lot of foundation there. Now you have to build upon the foundation. If you don't build upon the foundation, what's going to end up happening is dismantling. And we're seeing that today. We're seeing the dismantling of the good work that was done by the Obama administration that addressed the needs of the people. And he was dealing with that. He was focusing on those issues.
No, without question. Dennis?
Yeah, and when you talk about income and wealth inequality, that was one of his issues. And it's time to make college tuition free and make our students debt-free, getting big money out of politics, creating decent paying jobs. So when you listen to this, and this was his agenda, it was to, let's look out for those hard workers, those children that are going to school, trying to get their education, but then when they get out of school, they're spending their life trying to get out of debt. So, I think he's just that type of senator that is truly about the American people, regardless of age, regardless of color, regardless of social status, background, where you came from. It doesn't matter. He's about saying, let's do the right thing for the American people. And I tell you, he's still doing that as a senator. Had he made president, I'm sure we would see a lot of difference in what we're seeing today. But he's doing some great things. I'm telling you, tonight, we'll learn more and more as we hear some clips. But this senator is truly about the American people.
No, without question. And we're going to enjoy this tonight. Folks, again, feel free to chime in tonight, 646-200-0628, 646-200-0628. Senator Bernie Sanders, let's hear a little bit about feeling the burn. We're going to talk about it on the other side of this clip.
Turn now to the race for president.
He's a self-described democratic socialist from Vermont who got his political start as the mayor of Burlington. A long shot then, a bigger long shot now. He's an unlikely presidential candidate taking on the biggest frontrunner the Democratic Party has ever seen.
One poll shows him down 60 points.
Bernie Sanders, terrible for America.
I don't know that Bernie Sanders can beat Hillary Clinton.
Expectations need to be turned down here.
How do you plan to solve unemployment, specifically yours, when you lose to Hillary Clinton?
Whoever Bernie Sanders is.
He may not have any chance.
That's all going to disappear by the time we get to Iowa. Bernie, stop spitting.
You almost have to feel sorry for Bernie. She is ahead, George, by a long shot. They don't see Bernie Sanders as a real threat.
He's not going to be the nominee. Clinton crushes him in national polls by more than 40 points.
Hillary probably will inevitably be the nominee.
Even Democrats admit he may not be their best shot at the White House.
This Bernie mania thing could burn out.
Major structural problems with Bernie Sanders.
She is going to crush him. Is not going to be the nominee.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders may be gaining a little bit of momentum as he seeks to challenge Hillary Clinton. His views may be gaining traction.
Look at Bernie Sanders' rise, tripling his support.
The hottest thing in American politics right now is a socialist.
That is a rocket ship.
All the way to a respectable 33%.
I don't think we've seen more enthusiasm for any candidate.
People traveled from across Colorado.
Sanders was 35. That's a hello. Bernie Sanders is the candidate of the summer. He has a lot of support.
Senator Bernie Sanders drew a monster crowd.
3,000 in Minneapolis, 5,000 in Burlington.
We know what Bernie Sanders wants, and a lot of Democratic Party, let's be honest, they want it too.
She may be the Democratic frontrunner, but this morning Clinton is feeling the burn.
Throwing the scare into Hillary Clinton's camp.
In recent days, Bernie momentum drawing larger crowds than every candidate running.
In a packed stadium, possibly as many as 10,000 people.
That's not the last time he's going to have a rally with 10,000 people, okay? It is real.
It was another full house for Senator Bernie Sanders.
Feel the burn.
That's right. Feel the burn.
We're worried about him. Sure, he'll be a serious force for the campaign, and we think that will probably. I don't think that will.
It is possible. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he could win Iowa. He could win New Hampshire.
Hillary Clinton is feeling the heat from a suddenly surging Bernie Sanders.
He's chipping away at Hillary Clinton's lead.
Pollsters say that a statistical tie.
That's 28,000 people in Portland, for God's sake. They turned out in droves to greet Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders has quickly become the biggest draw.
One of the most unpredictable presidential campaigns in memory.
Bernie Sanders is drawing even bigger crowds than you. Have you drawn a crowd of 25,000?
No, 15, but I haven't. Excuse me.
Today, he did pick up a key endorsement. The National Labor Union representing nurses.
Sanders is a summer sensation. He's filling arenas for the first time. Bernie Sanders has replaced Clinton as number one. Roughly 70,000 people lined up to see him over the past few days.
Tens of thousands in 3 nights on the West Coast last week. And here in Iowa, Bernie Sanders was treated like a rock star.
Whoa, looks like the crowd is really, really swelled. These people are very excited. It's kind of like Woodstock down here.
Clinton dropping below 50% for the first time. Clinton's lead now down to single digits.
Hillary Clinton has lost a third of her supporters.
He has an electable agenda.
New poll shows Bernie Sanders beating Clinton in New Hampshire 41% to 32%.
In the last 2 months, Sanders gaining 15 points.
Once thought to be the longest of long shots with a commanding lead.
Bernie Sanders is doing a hell of a job, by the way, with Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders could easily win the Democratic nomination. Bernie Sanders could get elected president.
When we come together as a nation, when we say enough is enough, when we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish.
Well, there you have it. If you have goosebumps, folks, it's a reason for it. It's feeling the burn. Senator Bernie Sanders this past summer campaigning, and he started out as an underdog that was really a joke. They said there's no way he's going to be able to compete. There's no way he's going to be able to do this. He proved a lot of people wrong, and I'll tell you what, that surge has not lifted yet. And, Cliff, when you think about Senator Bernie Sanders, with that type of momentum, you've heard in that clip just from beginning to end that, I mean, everything was against him. Well, he's not going to do it. He's going against the top Democratic ticket of, you know what I mean, in the history of the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders had some resiliency to press forward, and I'll tell you what, he made an impact and continues to on this nation.
That's right. I mean, it just shows his resilience that, he didn't take what people had to say as, where he was at or what he wanted to accomplish. I mean, those are just people's words saying, oh, he's not going to be able to do anything. I mean, he surged in the polls. Why? Because he came in with a common sense, campaign that says, look, these are things that we can change by, legislation, and we need to. Just like you said earlier, there needs to be a living wage. There needs to be some type of, cap on how long a person has to pay on a student loan. It's like, if I'm paying my taxes, I'm paying my student loan off, that money for student loans that have been out there forever could be used to help the economy. And so he came in with just pure common sense to say, look, we don't have to become a socialist country, but we do need some social programs that help people up that are down. And again, there does not need to be any poverty in America. That is the basis of his campaign. And the naysayers said that it wouldn't catch on, but as that clip showed, he surged in the polls.
Absolutely. And he goes further to say one of the trademarks that defines the Sanders campaign in his call for a political revolution, which asks for everyday citizens to become active in the political process and be the change they want to see on any given issue. The other trademark in his fight to take corporate money out of politics, specifically overturning the Citizens United ruling, which allows corporations and the wealthy elite to pour unlimited amounts of money into campaigns. Such money, Sanders vehemently argues, undermines democracy by skewing policies that favor the extremely rich. Of the ruling, he said, as a result of Citizens United's Supreme Court decision, American democracy is being undermined by the ability of a variety of people, billionaires. These wealthy contributors can literally buy politicians and elections by spending hundreds of millions of dollars in support of the candidate of their choice. We need to overturn Citizens United and move toward public funding of elections so that all candidates can run for office without being beholden to the wealthy and the powerful. What we find with Senator Sanders here, and you're going to hear this further as we get into discussion, is that there are issues that is surrounded around the wealthy being given tax breaks and every type of opportunity to make sure the wealthy have it a little bit easier is the wrong focus for our country, because they have the ability to help. They have the ability to quit breaking the backs of the middle class, the backs of the poor in this country, because systems or politicians that get in position to just simply stroke the ego and whatever they have to do of the rich. William, that is an ongoing problem that it took a leader like Senator Sanders, someone who is out there to say, look, I don't come from any establishment. I come from the American people establishment, and we need to address these issues and start pushing forward legislation and things that are going to help the vulnerable of this country.
That's right. I mean, even with what you were reading there, people need to understand the influence of these PACs. The political action committees, they are out there. We saw a ton of them last fall. You see commercials on there. This is paid for by such and such committee or such and such. And you'll see this is an agenda that the rich have. Those that have money, they can pay for the airtime. They can pay for, basically, it's almost like propaganda. You're getting a part of the story, but people are sitting there and they're being fed this, and that will dictate how they vote when it comes down to the election, because they've been fed this information on TV. So he's saying, listen, let's get away from this. Let's remove their ability to influence the election by these means and other means, and basically allowing them to buy the politician that they want in the seat that they want with the agenda that they want.
Well, check this out. I think this information is really critical. Staying true to his principles, Senator Sanders relies almost solely on small individual donations rather than super PACs to run his presidential primary race. To the surprise of many, and admittedly to Sanders himself, he has made an unprecedented mark on campaign fundraising in American politics. In December of 2015, Time magazine wrote that Senator Sanders has broken the fundraising record for most contributions at this point in a presidential campaign, even surpassing President Barack Obama's fundraising record for his 2011 re-election bid. In February 2016, it was reported that Senator Sanders had received 3.7 million contributions from some 1.3 million individual contributors, averaging $27 a person. In March, Senator Sanders' campaign reportedly raised over $96 million in total contributions. That's a grassroots push to get the job done, and he broke records doing it.
Yeah, that's not a grassroots amount of money, but that's formidable.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you talk about $27 per person on average contributed saying, listen, I vote with my dollars. I believe in this man. Here, buy bumper stickers, buy airtime.
There you go.
I mean, that is a lie. When you say, I'm not going to take the super PAC's money, I'm not going to take the billionaires' money that they have out there to fund my presidency. I'm not going to take them.
And very close into achieving winning the nomination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very close. And it tells you, Dennis, when you talk about when a man is driven by what he believes, Senator Sanders meets that criteria. He is driven by what he believes. He is driven by integrity. And I'll tell you what, it still pays off. And he proved that to break the record of President Obama's rebid election in fundraising, and did it strictly through the grassroots push. That speaks volumes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he talks the talk. I mean, if I'm going to tell you that we need to look at new ways of funding our campaign, and he does it, and he still surpasses, like you said, Obama's 2011 election fundraising for his campaign. I mean, that's awesome. But that's who Senator Sanders is.
Right.
He's truly about, I'm not only going to talk it, but I'm going to walk it. He's not about making the wealthy more wealthier. He's talking about everybody has to pay their fair share. And by doing what he did, he's showing that it can be done. We don't need these billionaires, milking our elections. It can be done. Each one do the right thing. As you can see, he did it, and he proved that. Yeah, I don't need a billionaire to help me, get out there and get my campaign.
And at $27 a person,
awesome.
It tells you how connected he was with the people.
Yes.
You're talking about $27 a person, and you got to over $3 million, $3.7 million. Your message is resonating with the American people.
Yes.
That's just the bottom line. Senator Sanders is serving his second term in the U.S. Senate after winning re-election in 2012 with 71% of the vote. His previous 16 years in the House of Representatives make him the longest-serving independent member of Congress in American history. Born in 1941 in Brooklyn, Senator Sanders attended James Madison High School, Brooklyn College, and the University of Chicago. After graduating in 1964, he moved to Vermont. In 1981, he was elected by 10 votes to the first of 4 terms as mayor of Burlington. Senator Sanders lectured at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard and at Hamilton College in upstate New York before his 1990 election as Vermont's at-large member in Congress. The Almanac of American Politics calls Senator Sanders a practical and successful legislator, and throughout his career, he has focused on the shrinking American middle class and the growing income and wealth gaps in the United States. As chairman of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, Senator Sanders in 2014 passed legislation reforming the VA health care system. Dennis, we'll go to you on this. How significant is that?
It is very significant. At that time, the VA was going through some serious problems as far as seeing the patients, seeing our military and taking care of them. And so Sanders got involved, and I tell you, he led a bipartisan push to make sure that our veterans, get the care that they need. And I tell you, for a senator to really get that involved, and he's still involved. He's on the committee for our Veterans Administration. So he's truly about our veterans, and I'm thankful for that because I'm a veteran, and I understand the wait and waiting to get care, trying to set up an appointment. If you miss that appointment, you don't get another appointment for 6 months to a year. So, I mean, I understand that, and I truly appreciate what he's doing to push it and make sure we don't get rid of VA. Right now our elected officials are trying to get rid of our VA. Don't get rid of it, fix it. Well, and that's what Sanders is about.
Well, yeah, I mean, during that time, there was the whole scandal around the VA healthcare system, and where veterans were not properly getting notified and reached out to within a time period. I think it was like a 14-day time period, and so there was a lot of scrutiny, a lot that was going on there. So he championed this cause to say, listen, you know what, these veterans, these guys have men and women have fought for our country. There's no reason why they need to not receive proper health care, or they receive some kind of runaround. That is not what we're about. That's not what we as citizens of the United States should do to those that have fought for our country.
No, without question. And again, we talk about Senator Sanders calling people to the table and saying, look, how do you feel about your oath that you took to do whatever you're doing? Because at the end of the day, Senator Sanders is about the oath that he took. And it is about making a difference to uphold the Constitution of the United States and to help the American people. That is the purpose of Congress, because they are our voice. They are supposed to be our spokesman.
Exactly.
Senator Sanders, without question, tends to be that. We talk about how he's concerned about students and education and fairness and equality for all people. He actually was in questioning the nominated Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, in regards to her education lack of record that she does not have.
Keyword lack.
I'll tell you what, let's hear that exchange between Senator Sanders and the Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mrs. DeVos. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for dropping into the office a few days ago. Mrs. DeVos, there is a growing fear, I think, in this country that we are moving toward what some would call an oligarchic form of society, where a small number of very, very wealthy billionaires control, to a significant degree, our economic and political life. Would you be so kind as to tell us how much money your family has contributed to the Republican Party over the years?
Senator, first of all, thank you for that question. Was pleased to meet you in your office last week. I wish I could give you that number. I don't know.
I have heard the number was $200 million. Does that sound in the ballpark?
Collectively, between my
years,
entire family, that's possible.
Okay. My question is, and I don't mean to be rude, but do you think if you were not a multi-billionaire, if your family has not made hundreds of millions of dollars of contributions to the Republican Party, that you would be sitting here today?
Senator, as a matter of fact, I do think that there would be that possibility. I've worked very hard on behalf of parents and children for the last almost 30 years to be a voice for parents and voice for students, and to empower parents to make decisions on behalf of their children, primarily low-income children.
Thank you. In your statement, your prepared statement, you say, and I quote, students should make informed choices about what type of education they want to pursue post-high school and have access to high-quality options. Some of us believe that we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free so that every young person in this country, regardless of income, does have that option. That's not the case today. Will you work with me and others to make public colleges and universities tuition-free through federal and state efforts?
Senator, I think that's a really interesting idea, and it's really great to consider and think about. But I think we also have to consider the fact that there's nothing in life that's truly free. Somebody's going to pay for it.
Yes, you're right.
And
you're right.
So
somebody will pay for it, but that takes us to another issue.
I think,
and that is, if I may, and that is, right now we have proposals in front of us to substantially lower tax breaks for billionaires in this country, while at the same time low-income kids can't afford to go to college. Do you think that makes sense?
Senator, I think if your question is really around how can we help college and higher education be more affordable for young people as they anticipate.
Actually, that wasn't my question. My question is, should we make public colleges and universities tuition-free so that every family in America, regardless of income, will have the ability to have their kids get a higher education? That was my question.
Senator, I think we can work together, and we could work hard on making sure that college or higher education in some form is affordable for all young people that want to pursue it. And I would look forward to that opportunity if confirmed.
Would you agree with me that if there is a mom watching this hearing who makes $30,000, $40,000 a year, single mom perhaps, who has to pay $10,000 or $15,000 a year for childcare for her daughter, that is a burden that is almost impossible to deal with. What are your proposals about making child care universal for our working families? Do you have ideas on that? Do you agree with that idea?
That certainly is a burden, and I can understand the challenge that family, that young mother would face in deciding how to best serve her child's needs. Again, I think if we're talking about the future of that child and their education, I would look forward to working with you. I know we have common ground on a lot of things, and we could find ways to work together to ensure that young mom's child will have a great opportunity for a great education in the future.
There are countries around the world which do provide universal, very inexpensive or free child care. Would you work with me in moving our government in that direction?
Senator, again, I feel very strongly about the importance of young families having an opportunity for good child care for their children. I'm not sure that
but it's not a question of an opportunity. It's a question of being able. Very often my Republican friends talk about opportunity. But it's not a question of opportunity. It's a question of being able to afford it. How do we help somebody who's making $8 or $9 an hour at a time when we can't raise the minimum wage here because of Republican opposition? How do we make sure that those moms can get quality child care that they can afford?
Well, I would look forward to helping that mom get a quality education for their child or their children so that they could look forward to a bright and hopeful future.
Well, there you have it. Senator Bernie Sanders, I tell you what, no direct answer from the secretary. Just talking politically correct. And he didn't let her off the hook. Senator Sanders is talking about, you're talking about a billionaire. Can somebody explain to me how the Secretary of Education, Mr. Voss, I think that's how you pronounce her name, says, I understand the challenges. You are a billionaire that gave $200 million to the Republican Party. How can you begin to understand what it means for that mom or dad rushing out to work, trying to make sure we got the proper peanut butter and jelly sandwich in little Johnny's bag? How do we know that? How can you identify with that?
You can't.
You cannot identify with that.
You can't. I mean, and what he was saying was something that is so true, and we need to wake up as a country. I mean, there's roughly about 2,000 billionaires globally. Out of those 2,000, there's about over 500 billionaires in the United States. We are a country that has the most billionaires than any other country. So when you're talking about creating an oligarchy where you have that upper echelon of people that they have the education, they have the means, they have the opportunities that the rest of us do not have or will never have, that is huge. And that goes not only for education, it's across the board. And he's dealing with that.
Well, take a look at Senator Sanders. In an increasingly competitive global economy, Senator Sanders says we must ensure every student has the opportunity to pursue a quality education. Senator Sanders has worked hard to lessen the burden of tuition and student loans, replace No Child Left Behind, and to create an innovative loan forgiveness program by which loans are forgiven for college graduates who work in public service, including nurses, teachers, and law enforcement officers. For the first time in American history, the total amount of student loan debt now exceeds the amount of credit card debt, totaling more than $1 trillion. That's with the T. More than 2/3 of college students who graduated in 2014 had outstanding loans, each with an average of $28,950 in debt. In Vermont, 65% of college graduates have student debt averaging close to $30,000. In May 2015, Senator Sanders introduced the College for All Act to address the crisis of college affordability. The legislation would provide $47 billion in federal funding to incentivize states to increase investments in their public higher education systems and eliminate tuition for undergraduate students. I mean, this is stuff we're talking about here that is to really take the burden. Because guess what? When I was growing up, if you said, hey, we're going to college That was exciting. You're going to college. You're going to get an education. You're going to do everything that you need to do. You're going to have a successful career. That's the motto, if you will, of college. Senator Sanders says, look, that train left the station a long time ago. Students are burdened down with debt. Many of them, depending on how the economy is pushing, college graduates can't get jobs. No. So what do you have? You have them sitting at home trying to figure out, man, I'm going to have to stock up on ramen noodles and roommate with somebody before I'm able, because my tuition's too high.
Well, yeah.
On a ramen noodle budget because of the debt that they're dealing with. That should not be the case when you're dealing with the accomplishment of graduating college. You should be able to be in a situation where the burden is not too heavy. William, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, you look at tuition, you're talking about the cost, and these costs are just, $40,000, $50,000, just depending on where you go. I mean, and when you talk about you spent 4 years of college, you've amassed $30,000 in loans, and right, most college graduates do not get jobs. They struggle to get jobs because people are saying you don't have experience, so who's going to hire you? So you end up carrying this debt for years, carrying it for years and years and years. You're carrying a car payment. You're carrying the debt of a car, and you can't even get a job. And so they're saying, listen, give them an advantage from the go. Cut this tuition. Cut this out, because it's just a debt that they don't need to bear.
Well, Senator Sanders, again, the candidate, the congressman, the senator, rather, of the people. This is what we talk about every single week. Who's going to make the impact? Who is going to impact? But what I like about Senator Sanders is that he's investing in tomorrow. Yes. He's investing in the future of this country. Those kids coming up, you're talking about the next, you're talking about senators, congresspeople, maybe the next president of the United States. Let's set the tone of success for our children. That speaks volumes to the character of Senator Sanders. And that's why he had the impact, and he called his campaign the revolution. That is why that was there.
And see what some of the, quote unquote politicians, the bureaucrats, what they don't get, and Bernie Sanders did, is that it's about taking the burden off the American people. See, back in the day, the old school, like you said, going to college, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get a degree, somebody's going to hire me because of that. Young kids today in the, after the .com age and that like, hey, I'm in Silicon Valley and we're trying to get something pushed to market. They understand that, okay, a college degree may be, something that's more of a burden to you than it helps you out. And Senator Sanders is saying, look, push the young people to get a degree, but then don't put it as an elephant on their back to try to carry that by themselves while they're so young and just getting into the market. If we can help them pay for that degree, then yes, you get them the education, you get the traditional education and the traditional way that America does things, without putting that burden on the back of young America. He came to the understanding of that's the problem with what's going on, not just with the education system, but with healthcare, in the economy. Everything about the American dream is now a burden on the back of young people. And he said, we need to get this burden off, but still offer them the dream, still offer them everything they need to get that dream, but then offer them a hand up to be able to pay for it. I mean, why come out of college and say, okay, now I have $100,000 in debt because I got my master's degree, and I might get a job in the field that I'm looking into. That is what Senator Sanders said. That's what makes him a senator of the people, because he understands what's going on. And I mean, it just goes back. He's like, hey, we don't have to be socialists, but we can set up some social programs that helps every American citizen that needs help.
All right, this is awesome, to use your word, Dennis, of the senator. I'll tell you what, down in the trenches, and saying we are going to make a difference. Dennis, you had a comment right before we break.
People better start calling their representatives. I'll tell you, the new budget that came out it calls for a $9.2 billion spending cut to education. So people don't get it. They're not listening, not reading. I mean, the budget is out, and if you read that budget, I'm telling you, it's going to hurt our children. It's going to hurt them as far as trying to get that education. And Bernie Sanders, I'm telling you, this senator is about the people. But if you look at this budget, the poor, the elderly, and our children, they're the ones that's going to feel it the most. The rich, they're getting tax breaks. So read this budget. The budget is out. I mean, it ain't that big. But read it. Get into it, because I'm telling you right now, all we're talking about that Bernie Sanders is pushing to make happen for our children is about to get it put in a position that it won't happen.
And the thing is with that budget, I mean, when you look at it, and the reason that that so many members of Congress like Bernie Sanders are fighting it is because it offers $1 trillion tax break to the rich.
Come on.
They don't need a tax break. And then say, oh, well, it'll lower the deficit. You're talking about $119 billion over the next 10 years. That is not, that is the tip of the iceberg as far as the deficit is concerned. But then you want to give $1 trillion. Think about $1 trillion tax break to the richest Americans, and then leave everybody else out in the cold.
And it's amazing how the numbers are wrong when it comes to that $1 trillion. Those numbers are wrong, but when it comes to the numbers for health care and all that good stuff, come on.
They're saying, it's gonna lower the deficit, and it's gonna give $1 trillion tax break.
Well, they continue to break the backs of the most vulnerable of this country until somebody takes the stick out of the hand of those bringing and driving this oppression. The problem continues. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just getting started. Haven't scratched the surface. Do you feel the burn tonight? We do. Senator Bernie Sanders making a difference in this nation. We're coming right back. Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday. We'll be right back.
Do you know anyone who's been sent to prison who's innocent? The United States is experiencing record numbers of exonerations in cases where people were wrongfully convicted of crimes they did not commit. If you believe that no one should be sent to prison for crimes they didn't commit, there is something that you can do today. By remembering a just cause with a monthly, annual, or one-time donation, you can help in the fight against wrongful convictions. Call a just cause at 855-529-4252 or visit a-justcause.com and click the donate button. A Just Cause is a 501c3. Wrongful convictions are wrong. Let's be the voice of those who can't speak from behind the wall.
Good morning, students, and welcome to Career Day. I hope you're excited to hear about all the great things you can do when you grow up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I'm super excited to introduce my dad because he's my hero. When I was little, my dad was away a lot, but I was okay with that because he was doing this really important work driving ambulances in Iraq. Now he's at home, which is great for me because I get to see him every day now. And he's still the biggest hero I know because he tells all the ambulances and the fire engines where to go and rescue people when there's an emergency. I'm so proud of him. He's awesome. He's my dad.
If your service-connected disability prevents you from continuing in your civilian career, Voc Rehab offers counseling, training with a living allowance, education, and other services to help prepare you for your next mission.
There's a lot of mud when it rains here, and it makes it really hard to find food. There are car bombs every day. My mom worries about me when I go out. Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid. Sometimes I have nightmares about it. A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close. My dad says we have to leave, which makes me scared. I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us. What if they don't understand our religion? Because we don't speak the language, it might be hard for me to make friends. but I know it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words. These are not my words. These are not my words.
Here are 50 white guys. Here are 50 black guys. Here's how many white guys can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. The chances amount to 1 out of 17. Now here's how many black guys can expect the same thing. The chances are 1 out of 3. Why? Lots of reasons. It's complicated, but one thing is clear. There's racial bias at every level of the criminal justice system. When blacks and whites commit the same kind of crimes, blacks are more likely to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. Once convicted, they're more likely to serve longer sentences. Look at the numbers in America's so-called war on drugs. About 14% of American drug users are black, as are about a quarter of drug sellers. Yet blacks are 34% of the people arrested for drug crimes. And those convicted of drug crimes, 46% are black. By the time we factor in sentencing, there are actually more black drug offenders than white ones in state prisons and in federal prison. In the end, the incarceration rate for drug crimes is 10 times higher for blacks than it is for whites. These are the facts. Racial disparity in America's war on drugs is one big reason that 1 out of 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime.
And welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen of America. This is AJC Radio, Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday. And I'll tell you what, we're feeling the burn here tonight as we shine the spotlight on Senator Bernie Sanders. I'll tell you what, gentleman up there on Capitol Hill is doing some things that are shaking things up a bit in our nation's capital and around the country, William, as we talk about Senator Sanders, his push on education, his push on health care, all the things that, again, make Senator Sanders the senator rather, of and for the people.
That's true. I mean, he's really dealing with, the social issues that must be addressed. He's dealing with, the fact that the wealthy have access to services and education that millions of Americans don't have, and he wants to even that scale, and so those are things that he's really investing in the future of America.
Without question. We're going to hear a little bit from about the words that inspired a nation. Senator Sanders is doing it, and you know what? When you start researching and looking into the lives of these members of Congress, it brings a lot to the surface of what we're dealing with. And again, I was moved by Senator Sanders during the campaign. Some of the things that he said, the connection, the emotion, again, it resonated with the American people. Let's hear a little bit about it.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
11 million people in this country today are undocumented. We have got to take those people out of the shadows. We've got to end exploitation. We've got to end the for citizenship. This is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still an issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man
come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God.
Health care, in my view, is a right, not a... But what is not fine is when you have candidates for president and other people who are spewing out hatred and bigotry against Mexicans. That is not acceptable. If elected president, we're going to put an end to that hatred and that bigotry.
Thank you so much.
That is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
Wow, I'll tell you what, folks, listening to that clip, Senator Sanders is among the greats of those that fought for, I believe, the revolution of a nation. Dr. Martin Luther King, you heard there speaking about the freedoms, the challenges we face, and former President John F. Kennedy making it clear that the rights that we are fighting for do not come from the state legislature. As President Kennedy said, it comes from the hand of God, that all men are equal and deserve the right for these freedoms. William, when you hear that type of presentation, it moves you.
It absolutely does. I mean, when you hear the power and the truth that resonates from these people, the two iconic figures that Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy were fighting at the time of human rights, and they were dealing with civil rights. Bernie Sanders was right there in his speech saying, listen, when candidates are out there and they are feeding this bigotry, they're feeding the racism, they're feeding this, and they are running off of it. They're actually building their platform and their campaign off of the backs, off the efforts of racist bias, then something is really wrong. He said that what ends up happening is that racism feeds into their agenda. No longer will we see the betterment of human agenda, the human rights. We will not see those things. We will see policies that are skewed by the racial views of those that are running on the effort.
We talk about this. Senator Sanders talking about a living wage. We keep talking about it. He says the minimum wage should be increased to $15 an hour. This is April 26th. Addressing hundreds of low-wage workers outside the Capitol, Senator Bernie Sanders, Patty Murray, Democrat from Washington, and Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, announced legislation Wednesday that would raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Bernie Sanders says this: for the last 10 years, Congress, giving tax breaks to the rich, has forgotten to raise the minimum wage. We are here to remind them that a $7.25 minimum wage is a starvation minimum wage. Nobody can live on $7.25 an hour. You can't live on $8. You can't live on $10 an hour, Sanders told the workers. And that is why we are saying that after 10 years of inaction, the United States Congress is going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage at $15 an hour. 23 Senate Democrats have signed on to the bill, which would raise the minimum wage to $15 per hour by 2024 and would be indexed to the median wage growth thereafter. This raise would increase the minimum wage higher than its 1968 peak. The federal minimum wage has not been raised since 2009. That is insanity to me. So when we have, and Senator Sanders calls them out, you're giving tax breaks to the rich, but you can't put some extra money in the pocket of average Americans? How does that make any sense? So inflation goes up, cost of living goes up, Congress enacts increases for themselves. But you're saying since 2009, the cost of living has changed quite dramatically since that time.
All right.
You can't give me $15 an hour.
Well, what doesn't make any sense about that is, usually, like when you work and you're a salaried person, most of the time they will at least give you like a 3%. They're saying a cost of living wage. They realize the cost of living is going to increase over the next year. But this does not move. It stayed $7.25 since 2009.
Listen, and we're not talking. McDonald's workers are not on salary.
No.
If I'm working at Burger King or Taco Bell, whatever, or I'm in some factories, I'm not on salary. I'm on hourly. $7.25 an hour,
and it hasn't changed.
Many years ago, I worked at a place called Western Forge. My salary was $4.25 an hour. That was my wage. There was a supervisor. This is not even an exaggeration, what I'm getting ready to tell you. There was a lady there that worked with me who ended up getting promoted as a supervisor. This is no joke. In 2005, she was still at Western Forge. You know what her wage was?
What was it?
$7 an hour. And she had put close to, 20 years in. Wow. Close to 20. How am I at $7 an hour? This is what Senator Bernie Sanders is talking about. And you want to walk up, members, and Senator Sanders made it clear, the Republican Party continues to block and fight the increase while you get an increase.
And the reality about it is most of the U.S. citizens live on an hourly wage.
Most of them.
It's not about a salary. They don't have that. And so when you talk about this is what you'll get, you have nothing to look forward to as far as a promotion wise. If the government does not come and say, listen, this needs to be increased, this doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't even match the cost of living.
It doesn't match the cost of living. And he said it right here. They cannot, at $7.25, no, you can't make it. At $8, you can't make it. At $10, you can't make it. He's saying right now, at $15 an hour is a living wage. But you're talking about even now, the efforts that they put forward, that will not go into place until 2014. 2024, excuse me.
Yep.
2024. So you got 7 more years until that will be enacted. Now, your cost of living between now and then is going to increase. So now, by the time we get there in 2024, $15 is not going to be enough.
Good point. This is something that just does not make sense. But I appreciate the character of Senator Sanders. He's fighting for the people without a voice. I made $3.35 an hour years ago. And when you get a paycheck, it's a tip. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's not a.
That's not a paycheck.
Yeah.
And you have to have somebody fighting for you, like Senator Sanders. I mean, when you start to dig into this stuff and why the opposition to make America better, and then you talk about Dennis, the cut in education, $9.8. Did you say $billion?
Billion
in education. So how do we take education off the table? Senator Sanders said, no, we need higher education. We need people motivated to go to college to believe, if you want them out of the urban neighborhoods where there's poverty or there's issues or there's people are feeling like, man, can I get up out of this? It is the job of Congress to say, look, we're going to help you. Here's some more money to motivate you to get out that bed and go to work every day.
And the thing is that education builds the next generation, moves your family to the next, class, if you want. I mean, because one of the things we talked about was the shrinking middle class, but you got a lot of people there that are in impoverished situations. They don't have access to education. It's not that they're not capable. It's just that they don't have the money to do it. And that's to me, that's probably the most frustrating thing. And he's saying, listen, stop denying these people opportunity just because they don't have it. Give them an opportunity to change where they are and give hope to their family. Do something. I mean, the fact that if a child can go to school, become a successful doctor or lawyer or something like that, and then move his family out of that neighborhood, do something to help them. I mean, that's what everybody wants to do. And so he's saying education is that opportunity. Having an opportunity to better themselves without the financial burdens of financial loans after the fact, or even, they don't have enough money to even get into the school or be considered for it. You know what I'm saying? You can have a kid right now that's sitting there that is a Harvard caliber student, but cannot get into Harvard or does not have access to that level of education because of where they live or where they're from.
No, without question. And these are things that, again, we talk about Senator Sanders. His voice is heard. You've connected with the American people. When you start talking about we need to put more food on the table, we need to take the burden out of the homes of Americans. We need to let the American people sleep good at night, that they're wondering if their lights are going to be cut off because they make $7.25 an hour. He speaks to the heart of the people. Let's hear a little bit more from Senator Sanders.
What does it mean to live a moral life? When we talk about morality and when we talk about justice, we have to understand that there is no justice when so few have so much and so many have so little. There is no justice when the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Millions of people are working long hours for abysmally low wages, working hard, but unable to bring in enough money to adequately feed their kids. There is no justice when the United States of America has the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. How can we talk about morality, about justice, when we turn our backs on the children of our country? We have in this country sufficient amounts of money to put more people in jail than any other country on earth. But apparently, we do not have enough money to provide jobs and education to our young people. We are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. All of God's children, the poor, the wretched, they have a right to go to a doctor when they are sick.
I want you to think of what this great country can be. We can be a nation which joins other nations around the world in guaranteeing health care to all people as a right. We can be a nation in which working parents can get quality, affordable child care. We can be a nation in which every American, regardless of his or her income, can get a college education. We can be a nation in which every senior lives out their life in dignity and security. We can be a nation in where everyone, no matter their race, their religion, their disability, or their sexual orientation, realizes the full promise of equality that is our birthright as Americans. Brothers and sisters, this is the nation we can create when we stand together and not let people divide us. The history of America and the fight for human dignity is a history of struggle. They struggled because they said, I am a human being. I have rights. You can't do that to me. I need dignity. And unions were formed, and people fought, and people died, and people were beaten, and people went to jail.
Well, there you have it. Senator Bernie Sanders, words to move you really to action. That's moving. When he talks about and pleads, he said there is no justice. Senator Sanders makes it clear when the poor get poor and the rich get richer. And he talks about that America has enough money to have the largest incarceration population in the world and to accommodate that. But you don't have enough money, or you claim to end poverty in this country. Insanity at every level. Dennis, when you hear Senator Sanders speak, and when he makes his call to justice, I never looked at it that way.
That was huge. It makes you think, too. It makes you really look at our country and make you wonder why can we not afford to rid ourselves of poverty when yet we can afford, as you said, to be the largest, the largest system that confines or put people in prison. There's a lot of things that we do as a country, and until we start listening, and I tell you, he's speaking loud, and he's not stopping. I mean, if you follow him, you'll hear him constantly saying, all I'm asking is that everybody pay their fair share. When we're giving our billionaires, $52 billion in tax cuts, come on, I mean, $52 billion. You can't tell me that we can't take those tax dollars and make education free, or take some of our poor off the streets. I mean, come on, there's no excuse. And Senator Bernie Sanders is pushing that, and he's making sure people understand that we can do this if we come together.
And you heard the passion in Senator Sanders' voice, the deep, sincere concern.
Yes.
That we have a problem in this nation. And you can continue to turn a blind eye and say, well, it's not that bad. It's that bad.
It's that bad.
And it's going to get worse and we're grateful tonight for Senator Sanders.
Yes.
For his passion, for his dedication, for his public service to this nation. And there's a difference. Senator Sanders didn't come up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He came up hard. Let's hear a little piece of that.
After New Hampshire, we wanted to know more about Bernie Sanders. He served 4 terms as mayor of Burlington, Vermont, 8 terms in the U.S. House, and was elected to the Senate in 2006. But he grew up in Brooklyn, the son of poor Jewish immigrants from Poland.
So most of the kids lived in the apartment houses. I grew up in that one, good friends across the street. It was my mother's dream to get out of the apartment and get a home of her own, but she died young and She never achieved that dream.
How old was your mother when she passed away?
46.
How old were you?
19.
How did that affect you?
Significantly. Not having enough money was a cause of constant tension. And when you're 5 or 6 years of age and your parents are yelling at each other, it's, you think back on it now, it's traumatic and it's hard.
Must have been a lot of joys up and down this
Of course
block as well.
Oh, you kidding? I would get up on a Saturday morning when we weren't in school. We used to play with what we called a Spalding rubber ball. And you would throw it, starting off with a red brick, then you have a white brick, red brick, white brick, and then, you would win, I guess, if you threw it all the way up there. Literally, I would leave 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would come back at 5 o'clock in the evening, exhausted. I had been running all day long, but it was a happy exhaustion. And by the way, I learned something also about democracy. We didn't have much adult supervision. So the games were all determined not by adult coaches, kids themselves. So we would choose up a team. There was no other person dictating anything. We worked out our own rules. It was a very interesting way to grow up.
Bernie Sanders in Brooklyn.
Senator Bernie Sanders coming up not the easy way, losing his mother at the age of 46 years of age, 19 years old at the time of that loss. No wonder we have a champion in Washington, D.C. We say this all the time on this program, that members of Congress and some of the places that they have walked, some of the journeys that they have been forced to travel, and whatever their motivation to go into public service, has somehow, we have learned and continue to learn, has come from very difficult situations. Senator Sanders is no exception to that. I believe when you have a senator or a congressman or a congresswoman that has suffered some of the things that we see in our nation today, whether it's discrimination, whether it's being on food stamps, as Congresswoman Barbara Lee said, she came up that way. If there's a fire inside of these members that we're learning, William, that is ignited to fight even harder. I believe that is the reason Senator Sanders touched the lives of so many and continues to do so today.
Yes, and we kind of talked about it when we were introducing that segment with Betsy DeVos. When if you don't know the struggle, you cannot comprehend it. And when you go through trials, when he talked about not having any money and his parents bickering just over the finances, he said how later looking back at it, it was kind of traumatic. Those types of things, the social struggles, not having the opportunities. He said that even with low income, the parents weren't there, so they had to come up with gains themselves. And no doubt, they're probably working multiple jobs or working long shifts, and so when you're in that, you see it firsthand. And so now, as a public figure, as someone that has been an elected official, a public servant, you have firsthand knowledge of these things. So no one has to come and tell you about something that you can't grasp. And you felt their pain. You walked in their shoes. So what happens is you're saying, yes, I know. Now, I was fortunate. God brought me out. But now, here, somebody else needs a hand up. Here, somebody else needs an opportunity. I need to forge a way for this person. I need to be a trailblazer, and that's what happens. No, so you don't have to talk hard to that person, and you don't have to light a fire under them to get them to fight.
Well, and I believe Senator Sanders meets that level, and he exceeds it. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Bernie Sanders, the folks of Vermont, take a bow tonight as AJC Radio takes a moment to reflect on the continued efforts of Senator Sanders and his call to action right now. Our very special honored guest as we shine the light on Spotlight on Capitol Hill Thursday on Senator Bernie Sanders. Folks, we're coming right back. This is Spotlight on Capitol Hill.
let's just be honest. When we look across the street to the Supreme Court and we see equal justice under law, when you have drug laws so severely, disparately enforced against some groups, let's take African Americans, for example, there's no difference between black and white marijuana usage or marijuana sales, in fact. But blacks are about 3.7 times more likely to be arrested for it. African Americans are more likely to get mandatory minimums, are more likely to get 13% longer sentences. And it's created these jagged disparities in incarceration. In my state, blacks are about 13-14% of the population. They make up over 60% of the prison population. And remember, the overwhelming majority of people we arrest in America are nonviolent offenders. Now you've got this disparity in the arrest, but that creates disparities that painfully fall all along the system. When you get arrested for possession with intent to sell, do it in inner city, now you're within a school zone. So now you have faced an even higher mandatory minimum. Now you're 19 years old with a felony conviction, possession and intent to sell in a school zone. Forget even all that. If you just have a felony conviction for possession, what do you face now? Thousands of collateral consequences that will dog you for the rest of your life. You can't get a Pell Grant. You can't get business licenses. You can't get a job. You're hungry, can't get food stamps. You need some place to live, you can't even get public housing. And what that does is created within our country concentrated areas where you have massive levels of men being incarcerated. You create a caste system in which people feel like there's no way out. And we're not doing anything as a society like we know we could do, because there's tons of pilot programs that show if you help people when they are coming back from a nonviolent offense, that their recidivism rates go dramatically down. If you don't help them, what happens is, left with limited options, many people make a decision to go back into that world of narcotics sales. What's more dangerous to society? Someone smoking marijuana in the privacy of their own home, or somebody going 30 miles over the speed limit, racing down a road in a community? What is more dangerous to society? But yet that teenager who makes a mistake for doing things the last 3 presidents admitted to doing, now they have a felony conviction because it's more likely they're going to get caught. And for the rest of their life, they're 29, 39, 49, 59, they're still paying for a mistake they made as a teenager. Now, that's not the kind of society that I believe in, nor is it fiscally responsible, nor it's undermining their productivity, undermining their ability to take care of their family. This is so wrong that those conversations that I'm having with conservatives as well as Democrats are resonating. And so when you have people like Rand Paul standing up and talking about racial disparities in incarceration, this convergence and understanding of fiscal conservatives, of Christian conservatives, of libertarians, shows me that this is a time of great hope for our country. And so I'm not going to question people's motives. This is one of those issues like the civil rights movement in the 1960s, where it should pull all Americans together to say enough is enough.
This argument that the government should stay out, that it saps our pioneer stock. I used to hear that argument when we were talking about raising the minimum wage to $1.25. The fact of the matter is, what saps anyone's self-reliance is working 60 hours at straight time, or working at 85 or 95 or $1 an hour.
In America, somebody who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty.
We are behind every country pretty nearly in Europe in this matter of medical care for our citizens.
We remain the only major country on earth that does not guarantee all of our people health care as a right.
I think something really big is actually happening around Bernie Sanders. It's hard to understand the full scope of it, but I think we may be underestimating. I mean, it's very hard to get 20,000 people to do anything.
Bernie Sanders continuing to draw in massive crowds. This is at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena. Look at all those people.
The gymnasium was so packed, an overflow crowd watched Sanders from the lacrosse stadium where the speech was played on the scoreboard.
Senator Bernie Sanders, he's been amazing out there. 20,000 people show up in Boston. He's attracting huge crowds.
You look at that crowd in Birmingham, and you go, wait a second. Oh, so that's where he's weak?
This is incredible.
Well, I would hate to see where Bernie Sanders is strong if I were in the Clinton campaign. But Bernie Sanders, these are rallies. These are not events where people are staged and roped in. Those are people dying to be in a room with him by the thousands. And we all know how these things work. If he wins Iowa, if he wins New Hampshire, then all bets are off.
Bernie Sanders got more votes than then Senator Barack Obama did, which sort of made my jaw drop because when Barack Obama ran, I mean, that was hope and change, and so many people were so inspired and passionate, right? So Bernie Sanders doing even better than Barack Obama.
And I think if you look at the crowds that we are bringing forth here in Iowa, in New Hampshire, all over this country, the excitement they were generating, where millions of people are now saying, Jorge, that maybe it is time to go beyond establishment politics and establishment economics. Maybe it's time for a political revolution to take on the billionaire class and create an economy that works for all of us.
And I think the fact that he's making this stirring call for fundamental transformative change really speaks to where many voters are at. And it's why he has such momentum in Iowa and New Hampshire and among MoveOn members and many others, because it feels like we're in a moment with many crises that we need to address. Right now, it feels like a moment where we need to be making bold plans and figuring out how we're going to achieve them.
You know, I know the United States has a secret ballot and expedition, but do you mind if I ask you if you guys like Bernie Sanders? Do you care for
Who do you think is going to win in 2016?
Bernie Sanders.
Do you think he's going to win or you want him to win?
I think he's got a really interesting shot at the DNC will allow Americans to hear his message.
I mean, for the longest time, people have been saying, well, I love Bernie, but of course he can't win. That's right. Now it looks like he could win, but his biggest problem is in the black community. The brothers don't like him. Why?
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, it is.
Once they get to know Bernie and recognize it's true.
Okay.
Brother Bernie Sanders represents the politician. He's a grand exemplar of integrity in public life at the national level. He represents the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and Dorothy Day.
African American youth unemployment in this country is 51% for high school graduates. That is a national disgrace. And what I have said, and repeat to you today, that instead of investing in jails and incarceration, I'm going to invest in education and jobs. Put the kids back to work.
Dr. King, in his last 2 years of life, talked about a poor people's campaign, organizing unions on behalf of poor workers, organizing against the war machine that was perpetuating violence in Vietnam. Bernie Sanders is the only politician who has consistently for 50 years taken that social justice platform into politics. And right now we have an opportunity to elect someone who is directly out of the philosophy of Kingian nonviolence.
When people hear Senator Sanders' message, particularly the African-American community, when they get a chance to feel the burn and to know that the political revolution is coming in a way that will lift them and benefit them and that they will have a say in this, the African-American community will know what I know right now, that Senator Sanders is the best candidate to be the next president of the United States of America.
And as we look out at our country today, what the American people understand is we have an economy that's rigged. That ordinary Americans are working longer hours for lower wages, 47 million people living in poverty, and almost all of the new income and wealth going to the top 1%. And who is satisfied that millions of people have police records for possessing marijuana when the CEOs of Wall Street companies who destroyed our economy have no police record?
Well, if you think about it, the modern social media world is an unfiltered world, and that's exactly who he is. He's real, and what's really exciting about him is that the more you learn about him, the more you like him. And that's exactly what we were trying to do with feeltheburn.org.
The Bernie Sanders subreddit is really, my understanding, very active thread, right?
Yeah, we've got about 145,000 people on any given day. We have between 2,000 and 5,000 active members. We've raised nearly $1 million.
Bernie Sanders won't be bought. He won't be bought. He has been around for a long time. He has proven that. There is nothing that people don't believe about the fact that he will not, come what may, be bought.
We are fighting to maintain our democracy and prevent our government from being owned by a handful of billionaires and the politicians they employ.
He says what he means, and he means what he says, and he is not for sale. You can't buy him, and I just think that is so neat.
For me, this man has removed my trepidation over saying aloud that capitalism and democratic socialism, that not so scary word, can and should coexist.
Well, there you have it, folks. Again, we have noticed that the clock has gotten away from us again tonight with the honoring of Senator Bernie Sanders. What a privilege, what an honor in honoring this man. And we give a special thanks to him tonight for his service that we might be able to present to the American people around the globe about the efforts, the work, and the dedication and the push of Senator Bernie Sanders. And we're grateful tonight, and we're excited that we've had this opportunity. Dennis, your closing thoughts on Senator Sanders very quickly.
Again, you know my famous word, awesome. I mean, truly a patriot, truly a senator that's truly about the people, about the poor, about our seniors and, our children, their education. Tonight we heard a lot. And again, I'm very impressed. This is truly a man that's about the American people. And I mean, he put it all out there, as you heard in the clip earlier. You can't buy him, and he's not going to be bought by any party because he works for the American people.
Oh, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen of America, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to come into your homes and have you an opportunity to hear what Spotlight on Capitol Hill is doing. It's growing like a wildfire very quickly, and we intend to get better each and every time. Right now, we turn the page to what you didn't know about the IRP6. That starts right now. A Just Cause has found something very interesting. A playwright by Judge H. Lee Sarragan about the IRP6. It starts right now. Take a look.
My name is David Banks, and I'm serving an 11-year sentence at the Federal Correctional Complex Prison Camp in Florence, Colorado. I've lost everything. My business, my money, my family, my future, my church, and my freedom. My name is Gary Walker, and I'm serving a sentence of 11 years in the same prison. Just an aside, not only were the 6 of us all devout members of the same church, there was not a single criminal charge or conviction among any of us until these unbelievable events unfolded.
My name is Clinton Stewart, and I'm serving a sentence of 10 years at the same prison in Colorado. It's fitting that we live, prayed, and worked together that we should end up dying together, families.
I am Kendrick Barnes, and I am serving a 7-year sentence at the same prison in Colorado. I was the Chief Information Officer at IRP Solutions, the name of our company. I testified, and then Gary objected. A Donnybrook broke out because Gary said our Fifth Amendment rights had been violated by compelling us to testify. The judge said she had not said anything of the kind, and we demanded the transcript. We were all absolutely unanimous in our verbatim version of what she had said. She denied production of the transcript for that day and at the time, some 200 pages, but assured us that they would be produced at the end of the day. Transcript of that particular conversation in the courtroom between us and the judge has never been produced.
I am Demetrius Harper, and I'm serving a 10-year sentence at the same prison.
And then in June of 2009, 4 years later, they finally got a grand jury to indict us. This time, they only called one witness, an FBI agent. And the old adage that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich was proven.
This is a production that sets the bar and takes a sincere look at the RP6 story, Judge H. Lee Sarakin, retired federal judge, felt compelled to say something. We will not remain silent. To see the full story, the full playwright of the RP6 tragedy, go to YouTube, search The Race Card. You don't want to miss it. What you didn't know about the RP6, tonight we take a look at these 6 men and the state of the RP6 today as they approach 5 years of the wrongful incarceration that they simply did not deserve. Who are the RP6? Dave Zappolo, Demetrius Harper, David Banks, Kendrick Barnes, Clinton Stewart, and Gary Walker. Patriots of this nation that set out on a journey to develop software to keep the homeland safe. Tonight we look at their state today as they have suffered this huge injustice. William?
Well, you know, the good thing is we get to go down and we see them. We visit the guys. And I think that's one of the things that's most encouraging. They're always in good spirits, uplifted, encouraged. And that is the thing that gives that you know, it gives you hope. It makes you, you know, when we leave out of there, you say, okay, listen, it's time to fight. You know, we got more work to do because these guys have spent too much time there. They shouldn't have been there a moment. Wrongfully convicted after the good that they had set out to do to better our country. But, you know, the current state of them, they're positive. They believe they're, you know, all this, we're on the tail end of this. And that's good. That gives us hope. And to see them encouraged and see them happy, that's all you can hope for.
No, absolutely. And it's something that puts us in a position that we understand this has not been a journey without its price. Without the tears, the sleepless nights of the families, the children, the mothers, the fathers that have suffered as a result of this injustice. I can tell you of a surety that the RP6, their plight to keep America safe will go on.
Absolutely. And
it will go on with them as a just cause fights for justice in bringing these men home, Dennis. And you have the privilege of visiting with Dave Zappolo. His state of mind, every time you see him, there's an upbeat attitude. To see that in the midst of injustice speaks to the character of these men.
Oh, yes, it does. I mean, these guys are awesome. They are truly about, you know, they never did anything wrong. They didn't, you know, commit a crime, but yet they're so, motivated. And they motivate us. Every time we visit them, it's good to see that their spirits are high. And injustice to anyone, of course, is rough. But when you know you're innocent, when you know you didn't do anything wrong, and you're in prison for a crime that you didn't commit, I tell you, it takes a lot to keep your spirits high. But of course, we give all the credit to their belief in God and the belief that one day it's going to be, it'll all come out, the truth will come out, and all will see that they didn't do anything.
Well, absolutely right, Cliff. Your thoughts on the state of mind of Clinton Stewart, your brother? They're in a pretty good spot as we fight for justice for them as well as they fight as well.
Yeah, they know that we're out here fighting for them, and that's what matters when you're behind the wall, behind bars, locked up, whatever phrase you want to use for it, is to know that somebody on the outside is fighting for you, that somebody's got your best interests at heart, and especially when you're wrongfully convicted, to know that somebody is going to bat for you and pushing to get you out. That's what keeps them up and going, and they know that that's what we're doing out here. So it definitely raises their spirits.
No, absolutely. And again, Dave Zappolo, Demetrius Harper, David Banks, Kendrick Barnes, Clinton Stewart, and Gary Walker. Always send your prayers and thoughts with these men, their families. Just Cause is here for one purpose, and that is to bring these men home and to fight for justice for those that have suffered an injustice. And the numbers are in the thousands
of people that have suffered injustice by this system that we call our criminal justice system here in America. Feel free, folks, go out to YouTube. The rendition you heard tonight was just a part of a play that was actually written by federal retired Judge H. Lee Sarakin regarding the injustice of the RP6. Go out there, sign our petition as we seek justice for these men. Just go to YouTube, type in the race card, and that the complete video will come up. You can actually hear the entire dramatization, if you will, of the injustice in part that the IRP6 have suffered. Again, a very special thanks to the Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, his staff, his office there in Washington, D.C., the staff members there that are working tirelessly, I'm sure, as Washington faces unfamiliar territory with this Trump administration in bringing the things that need to be done for the American people full circle. And we intend to follow that up. Again, a very special thanks to Senator Bernie Sanders for his service to this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you next time here on AJC Radio. Good night, America.
Here's the simple truth, that in America we have millions and millions of working people who are working hard but are not making enough money to put bread on the table or to take care of their kids, and that has got to end. Today, all over America, you got mom working, you got dad working, occasionally you have the kids working, and we still don't have enough money to pay the bills. Something is fundamentally wrong about that. The problems we face did not come down from the heavens. They are made by bad human decisions. And good human decisions can change them. It is time that the United States of America join the rest of the industrialized world and guaranteed health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. Given the incredible wealth and income inequality in America today, we need fair elections, which means public funding of elections. My Republican friends just decided to put another $38 billion into the military. Maybe we can cut military spending a little bit and put it into education. 100 years ago, women didn't even have the right to vote. Change takes place because people struggle. Within the next month, I will introduce legislation that will make every public college and public university tuition free. I am in this business because I have 4 beautiful kids and I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. And like you, I want to make sure that the world that we leave them is a beautiful world where people can live full and dignified lives. I don't want to see a world where people are struggling and stepping all over each other. And we can do it. We can provide health care to all of our people. We can create decent paying jobs. We can reverse climate change and transform our energy system. We can raise wages. We can make sure that every person in the nation they need and desire. This is not some type of utopian dream. It can happen. It really can. But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations. Let's do it.